Good morning, Claremont Center for Spiritual Living. How are you this morning? I'm Reverend Tracy Earlywine, and I am so happy to welcome you to our online service this morning. And especially if you are joining us for the first time, please know that wherever you are on your spiritual path, you are welcome here with us. This is a community that comes together weekly to remember the truth of the magnificence of who we are, remembering that there is a creative energy in each of us just looking for new ways to express. So we come together to remind ourselves of this fact, to support each other when we can't remember, and to celebrate those things which we do express as the vitality of who we are. How blessed are we? So welcome. Our practitioner today will be Pat Richards from the Harmony Center for Spiritual Living in Whittier. She'll do our opening prayer and a short reading for us to get us started. And I want to remind you also that our own practitioners from Claremont Center are available to you all the time via email, via phone. You can call the office or go on the website and find their contact information. Do take advantage of their offer to pray with you. They are happy to know your truth and to lift you up, because that is one of the things we do best, is lift each other up. All right, so we're going to get started, and I'm going to invite you to settle into your chair wherever you are sitting and take that deep breath. And right where you are, just simply close your eyes and let the sound of the bowl take you within. Allow that inner sanctuary of the heart to resonate with this tone that reminds us of the oneness that we are. And simply breathing in to this place of sanctuary.
And right here, right now, in this amazing God-filled space, we know that God is. And God is the sunrise this morning. How bright and crisp and clear and amazing it was. All those rays of sun that went out all over the earth. And we too send out our rays of sun and energy filled with rays of love and light and enthusiasm and hope and resilience. Those rays that carry out and touch so many people we don't even know. Our friends, our family, our community, complete strangers. But those rays of light that we shine out into our community, that's the hope. That's what's needed right now. That is the best thing that we can do. Send out those rays. Touch another heart. Be kind. Be generous. Be the amazing God-filled spirit that you are. Because I know that is your truth, and that is your mission, that's your vision. That's why we're all here, to touch someone and lift them up. And I'm so thankful to be here with Reverend Tracy and to be of service, to take all this in. And please join me in saying, and so it is. So my reading today is from the Joyous Living Journal. It's called, so let me begin. How many times have you been confronted with doubt? Each time you set out to grow, deepen, or leap into a new possibility, and something inside of you wonders if it's real or true or even possible, you have the opportunity to root out all of your own disbelief, face your doubt, and reveal a deeper faith. When doubt creeps in, reach out for help. When your belief to faint, find someone. Let's start that again. My reading today is called the Joyous Living Journal.
No, from.
Right. It's from. You know, the third time is a charm.
Right.
We're going to go with that. My reading today is from the Joyous Living Journal. How many times have you been confronted with doubt? Each time you set out to grow, deepen, or leap into a new possibility, and something inside of you wonders if it's real or true or even possible, you have the opportunity to root out your own disbelief, face your doubt, and reveal a deeper faith. When doubt creeps in, reach out for help. When your belief is faint, find someone whose belief is strong. When you forget truth, seek out spiritual reminders. When you do not know what else to do, remember to pray and have others pray with you. Yea, through you walk through the valley of death, do not let your fear run away with you. You do not walk alone. As Ernest Holmes states, here we may meet difficulties, uncertainties, and doubts, barriers walling our passage. But we must not be discouraged when so confronted. We must climb over the rocks of unbelief, pass around the barriers of doubt, and plunge into a stream with faith. The stream will ever widen. The barriers will gradually disappear. Though we walk through the plains and the valleys of indecision and doubt, the stream will still carry us back to the ocean of our being. And so it is.
It's the 4th of July weekend, and we're celebrating an independence from an old way of life being turned into a new way of life, however flawed. It is a celebration of independence, and we're talking today about choosing freedom. I want to start with words from the spiritual leader of Centers for Spiritual Living. He's speaking about our global vision of a world that works for everyone. And Reverend Dr. Edward Viljoen writes, "Our teaching, the science of mind, is very clear that the birthright of every living soul is freedom, and that the freedom any one of us enjoys must be available to everyone, regardless of race, sexual orientation, culture, gender identity, age, or any of the other ways that we are different. Nevertheless, even though freedom is a person's birthright, there may very well be socioeconomic, cultural, political, religious, or personal blocks to a person experiencing that freedom. Then, for those of us who have freedom, the invitation is to share it, to ensure that others may have it, to speak for it, and to be a living example of freedom for all." Those are powerful words. And in our world right now, I believe we truly are confronting the inequities that we find. We are acting on peace and justice. We are doing so in the midst of a pandemic. And both of these scenarios, this social upheaval and this health challenge, are reminders in a very visceral way of just how interconnected we are, in ways that maybe in our lifetimes we haven't realized before. And both of these situations, especially together, can feel overwhelming. We can feel bowled over by so many things going on at once and be at a loss for what to do, how to help, how to support, how to be a better person, how to figure out how to live your life when you're not really supposed to go anywhere. I mean, I know I'm personally discouraged by the idea that this rollout of reopening society is rolling back temporarily. And it's easy to have a sense of despair or frustration or just, really? We're still doing this? Really? So what is it that we do? I mean, I know I go back to my spiritual practice, but what exactly does Science of Mind offer us in terms of finding a way forward, finding a way through, finding a way to solution? There's an English novelist, Margaret Drabble, and she writes, "When nothing is sure, everything is possible." And isn't that the truth? When nothing is sure, everything is possible. We don't see possibilities when we think there's only one way to do things. And if we're thinking only one way forward, we're pretty restricted or limited or shut down from the other possibilities that are out there. And we're focusing today on possibility. Because our ability to choose, the freedom we have to choose, implies that there is more than one choice, implies that there is more than one option. And the very definition of the word freedom is self-determination to speak and think and act for ourselves. And again, that means we have choices. And not just one other choice, not either or. Our society is really good at saying you're either for this or against this. You're either Republican or Democrat. You're black or you're white. You're tall or you're short. We're all really good at either or. But the spiritual principle of infinite potential means that there are a multitude of choices. Think about your own life. Think about when you were in the process of making a life-changing decision, maybe whether or not to take a job or move cross-country or have kids or get married. Those kinds of changes, were they really just a choice of one or the other? Was there a time in your life when you were on the verge of all of your dreams laid out before you and you got to pick? How good it is for us to remember that we are always standing in that place, always at the point where everything is spread out before us. Ernest Holmes reminds us that life is a banquet table laid out for us to enjoy. It'd be a pretty sorry banquet if there was only one thing on the table to choose from. So this idea of finding multiple ways forward when we might think there's only one way or no way, we might feel stuck, made me think about a few years ago when the Centers for Spiritual Living organization that had been Religious Science International and United Church of Religious Science had been separated for 50 years, decided to come back together as one organization. And it became very, very clear right away that although we taught the same principles, it was the same teaching, had the same origin in that organization, we had totally different approaches to how to run this thing called Centers for Spiritual Living, then known as Church of Religious Science. And what I remember Dr. Kathy Hearn talking about, she was part of the committee that was bringing these two organizations together. She articulated that they could not choose one way or the other. We weren't going to go all the way to United or all the way to International. That there was a third way that needed to come forth. And I'd say by now we're probably on the 27th way of coming together. And we are now one organization, and we are similar and not yet the same as who we were before as separate organizations. There's always more than one way to do things. Our teaching says there's more than one way to create justice. There's more than one way to live together in peace. There's more than one resolution to this pandemic. Because the nature of life is development through change. And when we develop through change, we are changing at all different levels, in all different ways, with an infinite number of possibilities. And this change that nature does, that life expresses, is the same in us. It is how we change. Ernest Holmes reminds us that if you want to eliminate thoughts of limitation, in other words, stop feeling stuck or overwhelmed or despairing, You must recognize that they have to be eliminated only about yourself. There is a universal principle that does the rest. What we set in motion from within our own hearts moves out into the world in ways we cannot even imagine. And I have a really good illustration of that. I came across an article in the LA Times recently about a young woman named Dalia Hurtado. She is a high school place kicker on their football team. And her story is pretty remarkable. She was born in the United States. She's a U.S. citizen. Her parents are Mexican. When she was 6, the family moved back to Colima, Mexico. And when she was 10, she told her mom that she wanted to go back to the United States because there was going to be more opportunities for her there. And she didn't want to stay in Mexico. Her parents weren't able to return. Her siblings didn't want to. So at 10 years old, she got on the plane by herself to come back to California to live with her grandmother. Now, her activity level is pretty high. She's 16 now. In Mexico, she played soccer with the boys because she was that good and because they're the ones that were playing soccer. So when she got to the U.S., she didn't let gender stereotypes slow her down. She told her grandmother that she wanted to play football. Her grandmother said, "You know, your mom was a cheerleader. Maybe you should try that." She wasn't interested in that. But she's all about sports. She plays all different sports. She is a good student. And she decided that she could just do what she wanted to do and get good at it. The first time she went out as a place kicker, she missed the kick. She missed the points. And she said, "Okay, I guess I'll have to practice." And she practiced, and she practiced, and she practiced, and she's on the varsity team. And so are 8 other girls. So when we realize that the possibilities are not defined by those things outside of us, the norms, the rules, well, some rules it's good to follow, but you know what I mean. We're not restricted by other people's ideas of what's right or good or supposed to happen. Amazing things can happen, not just for us, but for others. She's had a hard time in the pandemic. No school, no sports, no helping her grandmother sell tacos on the weekend, so no money to spend. And she still expresses a desire to move forward. She's still very clear that her desire after high school is to become an army doctor. So there. So remind yourself that there are possibilities beyond what seems to be apparent in the moment. That we are a product of our thinking unlimited thoughts. There's no limit to your imagination. There's no limit to what you can think of to do, except for those that we hold ourselves to. And if our thoughts are creative, which is what science of mind teaches, then the creation of our world is also unlimited. We stand in a place of possibility always. Life is not made of stone. It's not set. Life is more like clay, something that we form and reform, something that we can change as needed, as our understanding grows, as our experience broadens, as our perspective changes. We can reform how we see the world and ourselves in it. I have a great example of this. Pat and I had an opportunity to go on vacation last weekend. We went to a little guest house in the desert. It was quiet there and just lovely, just lovely, and within driving distance of the mountains, which was just beautiful. But one of the things we did while we were there is we found a board game on the closet shelf, and we played the game Sorry in the evenings. Now, you may remember Sorry. You start in a starting place and you move your little men around the board, and when you get all the way around, you go up the little path and you end up in home. And the goal is to get all 4 of your guys safely home before the other guy gets all 4 of his guys safely home. Now, this game, we're drawing cards to see what our next move is, right? Move forward 11, go back 4. You can move backwards. You can be told to move forward. You can be told to trade places with someone else. And so what happens is your own circumstances, where your guys are on the board, changes moment by moment by moment. You might be humming along, making that last corner, ready to shoot up into that place of safety. And that's when Pat draws the card that says trade places, and all of a sudden you are way back in the middle somewhere. Or she lands on your space and you end up all the way at home. Or I land on her space and she ends up all the way back at the start. The thing is that what we're dealt changes things all the time. And so very early on in the game, it became very clear to me that the less attached I was to any single move, the more fun I was having. Because here's what happened. I got sent back to start because she landed on my square. I got out with the magic number that gets you out to get going around the board again. And instead of moving forward, my next move was backwards. Well, the board is square, right? So here's start and here's home. So I had to move backwards. You know what? I moved backwards and I was on my doorstep to go home. I skipped the whole board. So what had been a setback actually put me in the best position possible. And isn't that the story of our lives? Don't we forget that when we're in the midst of confusion or chaos or something that disturbs us, we forget that we're going to draw a new card, that circumstances are going to change again. Remember, life is development through change. Where we are can't stay the same, as much as our human ego would love to freeze that perfect family and that perfect bank account. We never get there. Have you noticed we don't really get to that? But the more I was aware of letting the flow of the game happen without calling it a setback, without taking it personally. It wasn't personal, it's the card she drew. I mean, there was a little bit of choice in there, but there was no malice. And sometimes that seeming setback actually moved me forward in ways I had not imagined. And that gives me hope. That brings me to a place of an expectation of good. Because the truth is, we always ended up heading to home, both of us. And by the time we'd played like 10 games, we were within like 1 or 2 moves every single game to see who was going to get there first, in spite of all the back and forth in between. And so I want you to know this. I want you to know that this weekend of freedom, we're called to remember how exactly we are free. Because I know that in the outside world, we are not all experiencing the degree of freedom of choice that we would like. But I also know that the spiritual truth doesn't change. And that spiritual truth is that I am always free to see possibility. I am always free to rethink what I understand from what's in front of me. I am always free to be free from despair, free from labels, to call myself stuck, or to see something as impossible or hopeless, or to see myself as not enough, or to call something a setback is to do myself a disservice. It's to live in a place of limitation instead of that infinite potential that I am always in the midst of. So know this, from right where we are, in protests and pandemic, and having difficult conversations, and dealing with technical difficulties as we try to connect with each other, right where we are always in possibility. Remember these words that Ronald Reagan said, every day begins with new possibilities. It's up to us to fill it with the things that move us towards progress and peace. We are free to choose. Let's choose to be the living examples of freedom for all, from the inside out. Namaste. And let's take a moment and go into prayer, shall we? Breathing into that space within, that inner sanctum, that place of remembering that there is only the divine energy of all life. I remind myself that right here and right now, that life is a life of peace, of potential, of great joy, of adventure. That right where I stand, there are infinite ways to move, to be, to become. And that as it is true for me, it is true for everyone. That each and every one of us is an expression of the infinite variety of life and part of this tapestry of interconnected stories moving ever upward, ever onward, into a greater yet to be. And so today I speak my word for that onward journey, for that place of possibility, for our ability to choose. I speak a word that the choices we make invite us to expand. That the choices we make lift us up, that what we think and speak and do is of freedom, not only for ourselves, but for everyone. What I know on this weekend of celebration, that I celebrate the infinite potential in everyone to live their best life, to be their best self. For this is the truth of the power of God in and through and as us. It is that expression of life itself in all of its beautiful ways. And I am grateful, so very grateful for the changes already in motion, for the work already being done, for the resolutions already known in the mind of God, showing up through and as us in space and time, unfolding perfectly. And from this place of gratitude, I release my word into universal law. For as I believe and speak and know, the law must carry out and implement that truth into my world. And so knowing this to be true, knowing that progress is inevitable, that peace is our nature, that possibility is what we swim in, all is well, all is truly well, and so it is. All right. I'm going to invite you to join me in saying our affirmation. I'll say it a line at a time and invite you to say it after me from right where you are. Today, through the action of infinite intelligence within me, I am rightly guided in all my choices, bringing the greatest freedom to me and to others. And so it is. All right, a little bit of news. Just want to remind you, Wednesday night is still going on via conference call and via Zoom. If you dial in at 6:15, you'll find Nisa Burrows doing our meditation before the Gateway service at 7. It's a great way to get centered in the middle of the week and join in with your friends in prayerful uplift. And then Wednesday night Gateway service starts at 7 via Zoom. The links for both of these are in our weekly e-blast and can also be found on our website or on our Facebook page. So do take advantage of joining us, have a chance to see and spend time with your friends, and join in the conversation on how spirituality is affecting us day to day. Our Thursday night happy hour is going on hiatus for the month of August. We're taking a little break, so watch for something new to show up, maybe a short class, or I'm not sure yet, but we'll find something, some way to connect, and I will be sure to let you know what that is so that you might also take part in that. I want to thank all of you who are continuing to support us financially. Your contributions allow us to do this and to make things ready for our return. So here's a word about our return. The board has decided, set a tentative date. I won't say decided because as we already know, things change. Our tentative date to return to in-person service is August 23rd. Now, obviously, that's up for change if circumstances continue to deteriorate in terms of number of cases, or if the state or national CDC makes recommendations that we stay apart. But our intention is to begin in-person services in late August, and we will do that with all of the safety measures in place, with the social distancing and wearing masks and having the cleaning protocol set up. And we will continue to record and transmit our Sunday service for those of you who may decide not to come back right away. So I'll keep you posted on how this evolves and what opportunities there will be for you to help with this transition, because I'm sure there will be opportunities. And you know, I miss you all, and I miss seeing everyone. I miss our music. I miss all of these things, and yet I am really clear that our safety, your safety, is most important. So as much as I want to see you all, and as much as I'm looking forward to August, just know that if we change our minds, it's only to keep us safe, and because you are, in fact, so loved. Until next week.